We're going to try to condense it into 45 minutes, 50 minutes, a little bit of Q&A at the end. There's some Cancer 101 that you need to know, that your body kills cancer cells every second. So right up front, let's just be honest, we're all cancer patients. Everybody in this room has cancer. We have between 100 and 10,000 cancer cells in our body now as we speak. So everyone has cancer cells. It's just a matter of who's winning, the cancer or your body. So sorry to break that to you if that's new news, I apologize. But the good thing is our body wins most of the time, and we're going to show you how to enhance your body's ability to beat cancer on its own. Cancer does not make you sick. It's when your body can't kill the cancer cells that you get sick. And your health and lifestyle actually dictate how well your body kills those cancer cells. So largely, we're in control of the problem. And like we said, at any given time, you have between 100 and 10,000 cancer cells in your body. And under normal conditions, the immune system can control and contain the cancer and is actually winning the war. But when the immune system gets weak, and that's the key, when the immune system gets weak, that's when we develop cancer. So that's really the key to this. So what is cancer? Every cell has a life cycle, and your cells are pre-programmed to die. They're actually designed to commit suicide in a way. It's apoptosis or apoptosis, which over a period of time your body senses that the cells are beginning to deteriorate and function, so your body turns on a switch and tells those cells to kill themselves. Cancer cells don't get that switch. They keep living eternally and they keep making more of themselves, and that's the cancer. So there's some myth busters. We all are told that cancer is in our genes, that if your mom and dad have cancer, then you're going to get cancer, and mom and dad had heart disease, you're going to get heart disease. Well, we know that even for cancer, that about 5% of all cancers are due to be genetic. Now, some high estimates have that at anywhere from 15 to 20%, but at any rate, the vast majority of cancer is not due to our genes, it's due to our lifestyles and our environment. So in America, we've got over 200,000 women diagnosed with breast cancer every year, which takes the lives of about 40,000 women. We have 42,000 people that are diagnosed with colorectal cancer, which takes the lives of about 53,000. And then 203,000 die or were diagnosed with lung cancer, and it kills an astronomically higher percentage of those cases at about 158,000. So the rates, do you think they're getting better or getting worse? Getting worse. So there's 5 traditional treatments for cancer in this country and in America. We have chemotherapy, which most people are aware of. We're going to go into a little bit of the history of chemotherapy. Radiation, surgery, drugs, and transplantation. Legally, in the United States, you cannot treat cancer with anything other than those 5 methods. If you're caught treating cancer with vitamins, or like Dr. Brzezinski does in Texas with anti-neoplastons, or Dr. Gonzalez in Mexico, where it's why he had to move to Mexico, if you use anything other than those 5 methods of standard treatment, then it's actually against the law. And that's self-treatment included. And the bottom line is cancer caused by a lack of chemotherapy, or is it caused by a lack of radiation or certain drugs? We think not. Now, these certainly have their place. And just to be upfront, if I had a 20-pound tumor on my kidney, take out the kidney, take out the tumor. This is what has to be done. But in essence, that treatment approach is not making things better. We're getting more and more cancer, not less and less cancer. So the history of chemo, it actually started in World War I. With the use of mustard gas, or what they called mustine at the time. And the thing you need to know about chemotherapy is it only kills the fast-growing cancer cells. It does almost nothing to the slow-growing cancers, and the vast majority of the cancers that we face are slow-growing, not fast-growing. Some of the side effects of chemo, and we probably know most of these other than the hair loss, deafness, destroys the skin, heart damage. You get what's called chemo brain, which is a destruction of neurological tissue, neurological damage, bleeding, secondary cancers, destroyed immune system, blindness, impotence, loss of taste, organ damage, cumulative toxicity, pain, the psychological distress, which is probably hard to measure, and then stroke, suicide, weight loss, poisoning, and even death. And 100% of the time, chemotherapy is poisonous. Now, does it have value in certain situations? Of course, but 100% of the time, it's toxic to the body. The goal of chemotherapy is to kill the cancer just before it kills you. That's the treatment. Most cancer is not considered fast-growing, like we said, which yields chemotherapy completely ineffective. It only kills those fast-growing cancers short-term, because we've all known people that have gone through chemotherapy and they say you're completely cured of your cancer, and then what happens 4 or 5 years later? Cancer comes back. The problem is we can't find cancer until your cancer cells are in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. So you could have 10,000, 20,000 cancer cells, and it won't show up on a PET scan, it won't show up on an MRI, it won't show up on blood test, and you're considered cured of your cancer. And the key is, if you don't create your body to be a cancer killer, it will more than likely return and kill you. So there's 5 causes. We know about stress. We're going to break down the 3 types of stress: poor nutrition, poor fitness, toxicity, and then subluxation. We're going to show how this all ties in together. So stress, there's 3 types of stress. There's physical, chemical, and emotional, or physical, chemical, and mental. And most of it, too, is participating in this sick care model. We have a model that waits until you get sick, and then we react. Well, doesn't it make more sense to be proactive, which is what I applaud you guys for, because you're here because you're being proactive, and you're trying to prevent the problem. And that's really the cure. The cure is prevention. Now, there are people that are too far gone for prevention, but by and large, that's the message we need to get out to the general public. And then 2, we don't add up the cost financially, emotionally, physically, and you guys know, I know people are going through cancers personally in their lives. It doesn't just affect that person, it affects everyone that's associated with that person. And really, that's the real tragedy, and probably the biggest reason you're sitting here is because you know if you do get cancer, it's not so much how it affects yourself, it's the people that you love closest to you. And you've got to understand there's way too many options. No wonder it's so daunting when you hear the word cancer. There's so many different things out there that you hear. It's really fairly simple. If you want to be healthy and you want to make yourself a cancer killer, get adjusted, get the proper diet, exercise, and take the right supplements. There's more to it in certain situations, but for the most part, that's really about as complicated as it has to get. As far as things you want to always try to avoid, food dyes and food additives and preservatives where possible, because they're linked to cancer and tumors, thyroid disease, allergic reactions, hyperactivity, and they obviously will damage your immune system. That's the biggest impact they have on your health, is that they weaken the immune system. You want to eliminate sugar. Cancer cells love sugar. An average cell in the body, an average normal healthy cell in the body, has 2 receptor sites for sugar. So there's 2 sugar molecules that can normally attach to a healthy cell. Cancer cells have 8. So cancer absolutely loves sugar. If you want cancer, eat tons and tons of sugar. Has anyone ever been with a family member or friend in their last days with cancer? What's the one thing they really crave? Or what's the only thing they really want to eat?
Sugar.
Sugar or carbohydrates, simple sugars, things that break down quickly into sugar, because they're essentially feeding that cancer. And they've shown too, even in athletes, this whole Gatorade phenomenon where you're giving athletes these sugary drinks, they show that it decreases their performance, it weakens the immune system, and it actually feeds that cancer to help it spread. PET scans, some people do know what a PET scan involves. They inject a radioactive dye, which is tagged to a glucose or a sugar molecule. They wait about 72 minutes, and they run you through a machine, which finds out where all the sugar is collecting. That's basically what a PET scan is. They inject you with sugar, and then they find out where all the sugar is going. And generally, the sugar will find the tumor. That's how they find those tumors. And the sad thing is, although PET scans certainly have value, they in of themselves are helping to feed that cancer. And then we have this Maximized Living eating plan. So if you guys have relatives, friends, or you yourself is concerned about cancer, it's chapter 4 in this book. It helps you to eliminate sugar from the diet and totally eliminate that cancer-feeding dietary component. And it's not as hard as you would think it is. Sugar detox takes anywhere from 3 to 5 days on average. For most people, 3 to 5 days. By the 3rd day, you hate me and you hate everybody else around you. By the 5th day, you're starting to sort of come out of it. It's almost like a cloud lifts and your energy improves and your digestion gets better, your mood improves, because you're balancing insulin levels and you're keeping your body just more regulated, more centered. Consuming toxic meats. So when you're thinking about going organic, make sure you do so with animal products first. Those are the things that make the most impact because animals are toxic accumulators. When you eat a toxic animal, you're eating everything that it accumulated throughout its life. When you eat a toxic tomato, you're just eating that one tomato's exposure to the pesticide or to the toxin. And it takes about 5 to 8 pounds, close to 70 pounds of sprayed chemically toxic grain to make 1 pound of beef. So it's a huge amount of consumption of toxins in order to make 1 pound of beef. And then on average, 1 glass of just traditional store-bought milk has the residue of about 100 different antibiotics. Once in their body, they help to weaken your immune system. And then we know that regular pasteurized cow's milk also contains tons of sugar. When they pasteurize it, it turns the fats into trans fats. It denatures the proteins and the enzymes. It kills all the good, healthy bacteria. So traditional milk is not a strategy toward health either. What are the alternatives for milk?
Almond milk.
Almond milk's a good one.
Coconut
milk. You mentioned soy. That's a great, I'm glad you brought that up. So most of the soy in this country is genetically modified. Approximately 98% of all the soy crop in America is genetically modified, which means that it affects our immune systems and it makes our body, almost like an autoimmune reaction, it makes our body attack itself. And then soy is also a xenoestrogen, so it mimics estrogen in the body, which for women you don't want that because it turns girls into cancer patients and little boys into little girls. So nobody needs estrogen, male or female either.
So there's no natural soy that's really good?
Fermented soy is okay. So like your tempeh, miso, natto, almost like what you would get at the Japanese restaurant, those are good versions of soy. So just in moderation. The other things you want to avoid are the weird red fleshy color to all these processed meats. So hot dogs, certain deli meats, they have that almost that sheen of red material in them. That was almost banned in the United States, but the food lobbying industry was able to keep it on the market. And the World Cancer Research Fund concluded in 2009 that processed meats are too dangerous for human consumption. But we all go to the ballpark and Oscar Mayer and give it to our kids, and it's just part of our culture. So turkey hot dogs, you could do grass-fed beef hot dogs. There are other alternatives, but Oscar Mayer is not it. And then there was a 67% increased risk of pancreatic cancer in the people that consumed those products on a fairly regular basis. I think it was like 1 serving per week. It wasn't a big amount of consumption. Fitness and cancer. The right type of fitness, and we're going to talk about this, actually helps to prevent cancer in your body, so it helps to control body weight. It strengthens the immune system. It aids in natural detoxification, helps to balance your hormones, and to stimulate a healthy neurological response. But all exercise is not created equal. By the way, too, when you talk about balancing hormones, which one is your master hormone? Does anyone know?
Testosterone.
That's a good guess. Thyroid is another good guess. It's insulin. And we never really think of insulin as really being a hormone, but insulin is essentially your master hormone. All of your other hormones react to what insulin's doing in your body. If you want to control your other hormones, control insulin. If you want better estrogen levels and higher testosterone and more balanced thyroid stimulating hormone, balance insulin. Insulin is your master control in terms of the hormonal endocrine system. Control insulin, you control all your other hormones by default, for most cases. So here's the traditional cardiovascular exercise, the way we're taught throughout our gym class all the way up through our Zumba class of how to work out. And it's generally about 45 minutes to an hour on the treadmill or in the class or whatever you're doing. So you're pretty well going for the entire time, which is definitely better than doing nothing. I don't want to totally degrade that. It's better than doing nothing at all. But it raises a stress hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone which makes you catabolic. So when you're catabolic, you're breaking down muscle tissue, and it also makes you store fat, which are sort of the opposite of why you're working out in the first place. So you're burning muscle and you're storing fat, and it also makes you hungry. So an hour to 3 hours later, that cortisol release is actually making you hungrier. And like we said, it stimulates the appetite, it's catabolic, and it inhibits your exercise recovery. And then also, this is key, it decreases your testosterone and your growth hormone. So even women, when you exercise, you really want to elevate testosterone and growth hormone. Those things not only help to fight cancer, but they help to keep your body lean, they help to build muscle, they help to burn more fat. And most women are worried, if I build too much testosterone, I'll get big and I'll get bulky. Well, it ain't easy. Even with moderate to high levels, I've been trying to get bulky for my entire life, and it is very, very hard, even for a male. So women don't need to worry about getting too muscular. It really just, unless you have outside help, it just doesn't happen. So what we teach is this Max T3 or surge training. Some of you have seen some familiar faces, have been to the other workshops before, so you're familiar with surge training. It literally is very, very high intensity, but very short duration. So as little as 4 minutes a day, 3 days a week. The program is set up for 12 minutes a day, 3 days a week, but it's very high intensity, but very, very short duration. So it helps to strengthen the immune system, not weaken it. It helps to increase growth hormone and testosterone, not suppress them. It helps to cause fat to be continuously burned for 36 hours. Traditional exercise burns calories during the activity, but when the treadmill stops, that's when your benefits stop. With burst training, you burn a little bit during the activity, but then for 36 hours, you're continually burning fat. And also improve circulation to the brain and nervous system, which both types of exercise accomplish that goal. This was an interesting study out of Newsweek in 2007. They found that the relative death risk between fit and unfit men, regardless of their body fat percentage. So they looked the same, they both had the same body shape, body type, and same amount of body fat, but the ones that were fit had almost half the death risk in every single category. So whether you're losing weight and you look good in a Speedo or not, it's how fit you are that tends to make all the difference. So being fit really makes a difference, even if you're not at your weight goal necessarily. Toxicity. This is a big one. You gotta know these. Fluoride, which is generally found in our water, mostly in our drinking water. Does anyone know how fluoridation started in the country? What got that going? Started in World War II, or just right around that time, where they were, fluoride was essentially an industrial waste product. So they began dumping it into the municipal water supply, actually selling it to the municipal water companies so they could sell their waste products in the water supply. Fluoride by weight is more toxic than lead and just slightly less toxic than arsenic, but it's put in our water supply. Why are we told we need fluoride?
Healthy teeth.
Healthy teeth, right? Having fluoride in your water has been shown to benefit you less than one cavity over the course of your entire life. So it's barely any benefit, and it causes dental fluorosis, or mottling of the teeth, where it gets sort of that strange orangish brown color. So it actually weakens the outer dental enamel. So fluoride in the water is actually not a good thing, especially consuming it by mouth. It's one thing to rub it on your teeth, but to drink it is a completely different issue. And it has an affinity for kidneys, liver, and brain tissue.
So fluoride mouthwash not good?
But as long as you're not swallowing it, it's not that bad. But you think of how toxic fluoride is. What does the thing in the back of your toothpaste say? If you
not
swallow
swallow,
it,
yeah.
who are you supposed to call?
Poison control.
Poison control. So you're supposed to, it's a poison if you use it as a toothpaste, but it's okay to drink it in your water supply every day. It just doesn't make sense. Fluoride causes, this is according to Dr. Burke, he's from the U.S. National Cancer Institute. So these are not chiropractors and acupuncturists that are putting out these statistics. This is the mainstream medical data that you just don't hear about because that's not on CBS World News, because there's other financial interests that would be affected if you knew all that information. But this is Dr. Burke. He said fluoride causes more human cancer deaths and causes it faster than any other chemical. So that's pretty telling when it comes from him. We have to look out for mold because that causes immune system damage. Pesticides, we've seen a direct correlation between the increase in cancer and the increase of pesticides in our lifestyles. More pesticides equals more cancer. And then mercury and lead. Where do we get most of our mercury?
Fillings.
Fillings, right? So if you have the silver amalgam fillings, you use the cheat sheet on there. If you have the silver fillings in your teeth, that's leaching mercury into your system on virtually an every day, every minute basis. So we have a good dentist that we recommend that helps to remove those properly. If you're going to have them taken out, make sure you take them out appropriately, because taking them out the wrong way is worse than leaving them in. Where else might we get exposed to mercury?
Those stupid new light bulbs.
Yeah.
Right? So don't drop those or don't eat them.
Dropping
That's lower on the
thermometers.
list.
So,
Where?
Dropping thermometers.
Dropping thermometers. Fish, that's another one. Deep, yep. Our fish nowadays, the oceans are fairly contaminated worldwide, so you do have to be very cautious. Make sure when you do get fish, it comes from cold water, and it's cold, deep water preferably, and the smaller the fish, the better. So your sardines and your herring are going to have less mercury than your tuna, because the bigger the fish is, it's eating all those smaller fish that accumulate those toxins. And then shellfish are the worst of the worst, because they're crawling on the ocean floor, eating the poop of all the
Which
fish
ones are
that,
shellfish?
crabs, lobster,
Shrimp.
all the good stuff. And I love shrimp. If there was a plate in front of me, I would probably eat
I
some.
didn't know that.
But just know that it's not healthy for you. It's probably a high exposure rate of mercury. And then the other two sources are flu shots, which the average flu shot has 35 micrograms of mercury per injection. It's more than any other shot that's on the market. That's more mercury than is safe for a 600-pound man. But it's given to babies. It's now given to pregnant women.
Just older people.
And older people. 20 years ago, that would have been medical malpractice to give a pregnant woman a flu shot, but now it's recommended as part of the standard
And
schedule.
yet they recommend that for older people every
Yeah,
year.
Right.
They tried
Yeah.
to kill us?
Oh.
I don't mean that facetiously.
No, I understand. That's
So
a
it's better to
valid
get the
question.
flu, huh?
It's a $33 billion or $1 million a year industry. I don't think doctors are bad people and trying to hurt people. I just don't think they're educated as to what the shots really do. So my slogan is, unless you want the flu or mercury toxicity, don't get the flu shot. Because we all know people that get the flu shot, and then what happens?
They get the flu.
Right, so. And then the other form of mercury toxicity is from high fructose corn syrup, which is a sneaky one. That's one we don't really think about very often, but high fructose corn syrup is a very high level of exposure to mercury. Have you seen the corn commercials these days where they're doing the damage control? So high fructose corn syrup is no different than corn. It's all just from the same. It's such BS. I mean, it's just, it's
It's
all
in
damage.
everything, right?
it's
Just
a
about.
lot.
You gotta be careful. Ketchups and sauces and, and obviously less is better than more. I don't completely forego ketchup in all circumstances, but I know when I'm eating it, I'm eating that. That's the key. And don't eat the lead paint chips from your house. We all know that. Pain relievers. This is one that a lot of people don't know about. Taking one, and this is from the National Journal of Cancer Research, taking one ibuprofen per day for 5 years increases your risk of breast cancer by 50%. I know women that are taking 4 or 5 every single day. And then if you took aspirin, which is really not any better, daily for 5 years, it increased your risk of breast cancer by 80%, which is actually even worse. And then antibiotic use, they found the #1 risk factor for breast cancer in women is the number of rounds of antibiotics they had as girls. So more antibiotics in younger life equals more breast cancer in later life. It's one of the single, easily most distinctive risk factors for breast cancer. Another biggie for breast cancer, which is, there's not a lot of good research on this, but you kind of have to use common sense, is traditional underarm deodorants. You think about what's the chemical that's in them? Aluminum, which is neurotoxic and it's also carcinogenic. And you think about what women do, you guys shave your armpits with a razor blade, you create a nice open fresh wound, and then you rub a carcinogen or aluminum over top of that fresh wound. And it's right next to the breast tissue, it gets absorbed in the lymphatic system. So as a female and even as a male, we should avoid commercial aluminum deodorants. And it's a lot harder to find those than you think, because they all have aluminum, except for
And they kind of fall apart.
Tom's, Jason's. I wear that one.
Mhm.
And it's, just got to put it on 7 or 8 times a day, and you're no.
Yeah, exactly.
It does
You
work.
use just like baking powder.
And 2, the less toxic you are, the less your armpits stink through the day. So your body odor gets better as you reduce your exposure to
So
these
what about
toxins.
baby aspirin for men?
That's another one of those farces that they tell you need to take a baby aspirin to prevent, unless you've already had a stroke or a heart attack or you have a stent. Aspirin as a preventative long-term therapy is not a good idea because it's carcinogenic. It actually increases bleeding and other issues. I mean, did God make you with an aspirin deficiency? I mean, is taking that really fixing the problem, or is that medical advice just gone wild? So no, unless you had a stroke, heart attack, or you have a stent, I would not recommend it. Taking a fish oil will thin your blood as much as a baby aspirin. And you get the anti-inflammatory benefits. It helps to prevent cancer, and it's healthy for your skin, hair, and nails. And there's no side effects other than burping up fish, maybe.
Yes.
And then they found, obviously, the more antibiotics they use, the higher their risk of breast cancer. The most common toxins are poor nutrition. We're the most highly fed, most malnourished population on the planet. We eat more and more food, but we have less and less nutrition. A bowl of spinach 50 years ago had 8 times the nutrition of a bowl of spinach today. So you had to eat 8 bowls today of spinach than what our grandparents had to get in just one bowl. The environment, between our air, water, our soil, commercial cleaning products. What's the biggie you want to get rid of ASAP in your commercial or your cleaning products?
Bleach.
Bleach. Carcinogenic, highly toxic, has really no place in the home. Get rid of that one ASAP. You wipe the countertop down with bleach. You said Timmy eats the cookie off the countertop. What's Timmy eating? Bleach.
Bleach
Right.
cookie.
It's in everything. You touch it, you get it on your hands, your skin. If you get it on your skin, what does it say to do on the back? Yes, it's an emergency situation. So how's that cleaned to breathe and put in our homes? Personal care items we touched on, medications, some of the side effects. And about with medications, my job is not to tell you which drugs to take and which drugs not to take. That's the job of your prescribing medical physician. My job is to teach you how to get healthy so you don't need all those medications. So don't go throwing all your medications into the ocean. You'll kill all the fish. So keep them,
So we're gonna eat.
dispose of them properly. And then damage hormones that are caused by stress. And then obviously combinations of all those are an issue. So to boost your immune system, there's a chemical, everybody know about glutathione? That's starting to become a biggie in the news or in research. Glutathione is your body's master antioxidant. Your antioxidants are what come into play, what your body uses to fight off free radicals, which are the things that break your body down and tend to cause cancer. So the lymphocytes, which are your white cells that actually naturally kill cancer, are dependent on glutathione for their function. So you have to have glutathione for your body's own cancer mechanism to work. It detoxifies your body, it fights inflammation, and it prevents and reduces aging. Not prevents aging, slows it down. No way to prevent aging. Haven't figured that one out yet. So if you want to optimize your glutathione levels, the things you want to eat are garlic, onions, and your cruciferous veggies, so your cauliflowers and your broccolis, kale, collards, cabbage. Another good one is apple cider vinegar. It's got a good basic, and what is better than collard greens and some apple cider vinegar? I mean, come on. That's like the best thing I can think, but my mouth is watering. And then bioactive whey protein. What we mean by bioactive means alive and active. So it has to maintain and still be alive, and it has to also still be active. So that means it has to be a low temperature pasteurization process. They can't heat it up too high. The one we use, and I'm not trying to push products, but I do want to give you sort of the availability of what we have. Ours is very low temperature pasteurized, so it's heated very low. It comes from all grass-fed cows, so no hormones, no antibiotics, all organic, and it's sweetened with stevia, so no artificial sweeteners and no sugar. And then you want to supplement with selenium, milk thistle, alpha-lipoic acid, and N-acetylcysteine. Conveniently, those are all contained in this. Those are all the things that help boost glutathione. The goal of the daily detox is to help boost glutathione. That's one part that you take. And the other part has activated carbon, which you take before you go to bed, which helps to get the toxins into the digestive tract and into the toilet. That's the goal. And when everybody fears the word detox, this is not an explosive running to the bathroom. It's a very gentle, I take it every day and have for the last probably 6 months. So it's very easy.
What about taking glutathione?
You can't take reduced glutathione to boost glutathione levels. You have to take the precursors, which are N-acetylcysteine, alpha-lipoic acid, N-acetylcysteine, And the component of whey protein, let me see how much this one has, glycine. Where's it at? Yeah, this is 800 milligrams. That's a glycine, L-glutamine. So you have to take those three precursors because reduced glutathione breaks down in your stomach acid. So taking glutathione doesn't boost your glutathione. Taking vitamin D boosts your vitamin D, but that's an oil, fat-soluble vitamin, so it works a little bit differently in the body. So you'll see a lot of these products that have glutathione, you've got to take those three important precursors. And then the high-intensity, short-duration exercise or burst training. Those are biggies. I think we already went through this.